Hey guys, it's Nina and I'm back with another video. So I asked you guys to ask me some lock questions, and today I'm going to answer as many as I can in one relatively short video because I did get a lot of questions, which thank you guys so much. So I am going to have to break this up, and if I don't get to your question today, I definitely will get to it in one of the next videos that I do in this series. And yeah, let's get into it. So question number one comes from LL that's cute, on Instagram, and she asked, any easy styles for short locks? So first of all, before I answer, I want to say the answers that I give today are all my unprofessional opinion. I'm not a loctician, not a stylist. I am just somebody that has maintained their locks for over 5 years. So I think I know like a little thing or two, but definitely don't take my opinion as law. This is just my perspective on things. So to answer that question, when it comes to short locks, I prefer to err on a slightly more conservative side. So if your locks are really short, chances are they're not really fully mature yet. And so you don't want to disturb the locking process by constantly manipulating your locks. This is definitely more for baby locks. But if your locks are short and they've matured, maybe they're a year or so, it just depends on where they are, I would recommend curls. You can do pipe cleaner curls. You can use really skinny flexi rods. When my locks were pretty short, I did curls. Now, I didn't necessarily like how they looked on me because I kind of felt like they were at a grandma-ish length, but it really just depends on what you're comfortable with. I've seen a lot of people do updos with short locks, and I would just say to use caution when doing that because you don't want anything that's going to be too tight. And if you're trying to do, like you're trying to pull your locks back, trying to do an updo, anything, and your locks are short, it's going to take a lot of tension to get them in a style. So that's what I would suggest. Just use a really conservative hand, maybe do some curls, maybe part them a different way. And yeah, that's my 2 cents. All right, next question comes from Diana. If I mess up your name, guys, please, I'm sorry. She asked, I started locks with coils and I combed them out about 3 months in. They were super duper frizzy. My hair type is about 4A, 4B. Is that normal? Girl, yes, it is normal, and when you're starting locks, your hair is going to be frizzy for several months. My locks were frizzy for probably 7 months, maybe 7 or 8 months, and maybe by the 8th month, the frizz, like as the locks began to solidify, the frizz went away. But if you want to start locks, you're definitely going to have to make it past that 3-month mark, girl. I understand the frustration, I really do, but that's just part of the process. Your hair is going to be frizzy as it begins to lock. So unfortunately, you cannot skip that part. If you want locks, you're gonna have to go back to the frizzies. They will not last forever. They won't. Like the type of frizz that you get in the very beginning is not gonna last forever. Another thing I want you to keep in mind though is that you're always gonna have starter locks, no matter how long your hair gets, because your hair at the root is not going to lock. It's still a process for that because your hair does not naturally grow long. But please don't be discouraged by that. You can still keep your locks neat. You just have to go through the process. We all have to do it. I guess with the exception of people that just get locks attached to their head and like let their hair grow into it. That could be an option for you if you want to do that. I would not personally recommend that because I do think the journey is important and you really learn to accept yourself in a lot of ways. But I understand like just getting through that can be tough. Come back and see us, girl. All right, next question comes from Lisa Serta. She asked, would you recommend faux locks, pros and cons? Is it cultural appropriation? So I would recommend faux locks if you're interested in getting real locks at some point and you're not really sure how they're going to look on your hair. I would remind you that faux locks are going to be very different from your real locks. Unless you're getting like faux locks with actual human locks attached to your head. If you're just getting the synthetic faux locks, yeah, it's going to be different if you actually got locks. I would say a pro is you get an easy look of locks, very low maintenance. You don't have to worry about retwisting your roots or anything like that. One of the cons, I feel like faux locks might be a little less versatile than actual locks. Maybe they won't curl the way that real locks do, because real locks can like be manipulated in a ton of ways. Like you'd be amazed like how much you can do with them. So I don't really think that faux locks, like we're talking about synthetic locks here, I don't really think that those are able to do some of the same things. But I think it is like a cute summer style. Is it cultural appropriation? It's a tricky question for me because the reality is there are a lot of people who are not black who wear dreads. When it comes to people that aren't black, I call the matted strands of hair dreads instead of locks, because I feel like locks is a reclaimed term from some of the negative European perception of dreads. So I hesitate to call anybody else's hair locks. But I don't necessarily think that it's cultural appropriation. Like, some of you can agree or disagree in the comments, that's fine. Because I think at some point, if you think back before industrialization, before like civilization, when you think about just people kind of out in the wild, if people weren't touching their hair, then it would mat up. So I don't know. What do y'all think in the comments? Next question comes from Leisha Thomas. Can anyone's hair lock? This kind of goes back into this previous question. Yes, anybody's hair can become matted and tangled to the point where individual sections of hair become locked. It's definitely going to be easier for people with type 4 hair to lock their hair because that type of hair is naturally tighter, but it doesn't mean that no one else's hair is going to be able to do it. It's just going to take a little bit longer. For example, a person with type 4 hair is going to be able to do comb coils much easier than somebody with type 2 or 3 hair. People with those hair types typically have to do a 2-strand twist method to start their locks, or start the process. But yeah, I do think, generally speaking, anybody's hair can, but it's just like, how good is it actually gonna look? Like, how neat is it really gonna get? Next question is from Wanta Joseph. She asks, have you ever thought about wearing weaves or protective styles over your locks, and why? I have not really thought about putting twists over my locks necessarily, because I feel like my locks can kind of do any style that I want. I have thought about putting a wig over my locks, not because I wanted to wear a wig necessarily, but I just wanted to see how easy it would be to do it, and I might do a video on that, so maybe stay tuned. All right, next question is from Naturally Back to Me. I have thin, fine hair and I want locks, but I want my hair to look full and not scarce. Would you recommend someone with thin, fine hair get sister locks instead? What are your thoughts? That's a good question. I would not necessarily say that you have to get sister locks because you have thin, fine hair. I have thin, fine hair. My hair always got tangled, and that's why I decided to start locks. And I have traditional locks, and I don't feel like my hair is any thinner because of them. I don't feel like my parts are thin or anything. And I think that depending on what your situation is, like if your hair is like mine where it's just very fine, then you should be okay with traditional locks. I feel like with sister locks, they could potentially emphasize the fact that your hair is very thin and fine. In the comments, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. If you have very fine hair and your sister locks, you know, look how you want them to look. I would feel like if you already have thin hair, then making thin strands is just gonna accentuate thinness. Considering the way that my hair is, the locks are actually quite thick that I have, especially some in the back, so I think you'll be fine. Next question comes from Adita Williams. I want locks, but I'm scared of my hair thinning out. What to do? So again, along these same lines as the previous question, when it comes to thinning, I think there are 2 factors that you have to keep in mind. Number 1 is what's going on in your system. Do you have hormonal issues that can affect your hair and cause it to thin out? Number 2 is your styling habits. If you're constantly combing, tugging, pulling at your hair, that's gonna thin it out. So I think that if you have a good balance between those things, like if you're healthy enough that your hair is not going to start falling out for any reason, and also if you're very conservative and just like mindful of styling, I don't think you're going to have a problem with your locks thinning. The one thing I will say is that I have an itchy spot in my head, and it's like right in here somewhere forever. Way before I had locks, when I was wearing weaves, when I was doing relaxers, when I had loose natural, all of that, this spot in my head always itched really bad. And so I scratched kind of a lot there. I tried not to, but it's just one spot that I really need to go to the dermatologist. I don't know why I haven't done this, but I have noticed a tiny bit of thinning there because I'm constantly manipulating it. But it goes back to the second point that I made about your habits. So don't think that by definition, getting locks means that your hair is gonna thin out. Definitely not the case. All right, next question comes from my girl, Foreseeing Salisa. So Salisa just started a YouTube channel a couple months ago, and she's actually been like really cranking out her content. She says, what's the #1 reason you love your locks? So the #1 reason that I love my locks is that they have really made my life so much easier when it comes to styling and maintenance and growth and everything. I get to grow my hair out and I really don't have to do a lot to it at all. With the exception of having to retwist my roots, I get to just kind of enjoy my hair. And also I'm able to stop fighting with it. So thanks girl for the question. Guys, definitely go and check out her channel. All right, and last question for this video comes from Bella Reese. She says, how often should I mist my locks? And can you recommend a moisturizing spray? So how often you should mist your locks really depends on your hair's own moisture needs. I aspire to do mine maybe every other day, but really it does not add up to that. Like I can go for several days without misting my locks. But I always feel better when I do because I want my hair to be moisturized. What I personally use is just water, olive oil, and some sort of essential oil for fragrance. If you can find an oil that your locks really like, that your hair likes, you don't really need much else. Like you don't need to go and get like pink moisturizer or anything, because first of all, that has a ton of ingredients that can potentially lead to buildup. Get a little spray bottle, mix that oil in there or any combination of oils, put some water, and maybe put some essential oil and you'll be good. So those are all the questions I'm going to answer in this video. Please stay tuned for the next set of questions. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, you love what I said, you hate what I said, anything you want to say, leave them in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one.